As we described earlier, financial dimensions are used to provide more detail about a transaction in the general ledger. Although financial dimensions are not required to implement AX, they are strongly recommended to help organize and report on your financial information. Some benefits of using financial dimensions include simplifying the accounting process when you enable detailed analysis without the creation of a detailed chart of accounts. They enable you to view the data from a different perspective, which can help to improve the effectiveness in tracking figures across accounts. They can also be defaulted on master data such as items, vendors, and customers, which is then copied to transactions automatically. When you create a financial dimension, you must decide where the value will come from. A system dimension is a financial dimension that will get the list of values from another table in the system. There are approximately 30 options available out of the box that you can select from. Examples include a customer account or group, items or item groups, and projects or project groups. When a dimension is created that is linked to an entity in the system, the values are defined from that area of the system. For example, if you create a customer group financial dimension, the values are maintained in the customer group form found in accounts receivable. The next type is an organization type dimension. Organization is a special type of system dimension that is linked to the operating units table in the Organization Administration module. There's great benefit to using these as financial dimensions because you can leverage the additional functionality that is available in the Organization Administration module. Business units, departments, cost centers, and legal entities are the values available that link to the organization modeling features in AX. The last option when creating financial dimensions is to use a custom dimension. This means that you have complete control over the formatting, values, and behavior. No information or functionality is inherited from other areas of the system when you use this type of dimension. Let's switch over to AX and I'll create some dimensions for you. Financial dimensions are found in the General Ledger underneath Setup and then Financial Dimensions. Then I can click on the Financial Dimensions form. Based on our chart of accounts, we have several new dimensions to create. I'll start off by creating the cost center and department dimensions that are required for our organizational dimensions. So I'll click the new icon and create a new dimension. For this first example, I'm going to use values that come from the cost centers table. The dimension name will populate automatically, and I can update this based on whatever I want to use. I'm going to call mine cost center _ US, and then in the report column name, I'll give it an abbreviation of CC. If we click the Financial Dimension Values button, you'll notice that there are financial dimension values already created. That's because these values are coming from the Cost Center table, which is found in the Organization Administration module. Next, I'll close this window and we'll create our new department dimension. So I'll click the New button and again select to use values from Departments. Again, I'll use and name this Departments _ US. In the report column name, I'll give it an abbreviation of DEP. Just like the Cost Center dimension, when I click the Financial Dimension Values button, values already exist. Let's go take a look at how these cost centers and departments are created. Back in the General Ledger, if we scroll down and go to the bottom where Organization, you'll see that there are 4 screens: Legal Entities, Business Units, Cost Centers, and Departments. These are all related to the internal organizations that are supported in the Organization Administration module. You can create these directly from the Organization Administration module or by using one of these forms. I'll show you how to create both a cost center and a department. Let's start with the cost center. Here in the cost center, I'll create a new value called corporate. I do this by clicking the new icon and then typing in a name. I can also insert a search name and type in a detailed description and assign a manager. If required, I can add address and contact information as well. Next, I'll show you how to create a department. This is done in the Departments form, which is found in Organization and then Departments. Again, I'll click the new icon to create a new department. For this example, I'll create a new department called Training. I can update the description and the information much like I could on the Cost Centers form. Now that I've created the new values, I can open the Financial Dimensions value form and see these new values that I've created. So select the Cost Center US dimension that I just created and then click Financial Dimension Values. Here you can see at the bottom my example corporate that we just created. You'll notice that the new and the delete icons are disabled. This is because these values are managed from the Cost Center form. On the right-hand side of the form, you can see the information and update certain values about this particular dimension. Keep in mind that we're currently looking at the shared value. Cost centers, departments, business units, and legal entities are shared across all of the companies in your environment, which means that you don't need to repeat the setup in each company. So I can override the active from and to dates, I could suspend the values, or link them to a manager. The group dimension field is used for consolidation, and there are some additional checkboxes that we can use to determine whether we should calculate totals for multiple dimension values, whether or not manual entries are allowed for this dimension value, and whether or not this dimension value is required to be balanced. If you update the view to the company view, and then select a company, I'll choose GLSI. You'll notice that two additional tabs appear. The Financial Statement Formatting, which is used for legacy financial statement reporting, and the Cost Accounting tab, which is used with the Cost Accounting module in AX. Next, I'll show you how to create another dimension for the customer groups. So based on our chart of accounts, we wanted to create a customer group dimension that will later link to only be used on our accounts receivable main account. So I'll click the new icon and create a new dimension value. In this case, I want the values to come from the customer groups table, which is found in accounts receivable. I create the new dimension value and I can give it an abbreviation such as CG. When I click Financial Dimension Values, you'll notice that values already exist. This is because they are coming from the customer group table, which is found in accounts receivable. Just like our internal organizations, the new and delete buttons are disabled, which means that I must configure these in their respective area of the system. However, you'll notice on the right-hand side that I'm looking at the company view. It is not possible to look at the shared value of a customer group because this particular data entity in the system is not capable of being shared. If I sort the data by company, you can see that in the GLSI company, there are no values. So I would need to create a new customer group in the GLSI company to have any financial dimension values. The same fields are available over on the right as were available on the cost centers and departments. Next, I'll show you how to create a new dimension for the product line. I'll click the new icon, and for our product lines, we want to enter the values that are going to be used manually. So I select the option called Custom Dimension. In the dimension name, I'll type in product line. It's important that when you're typing in the dimension name that you do not use any spaces. If you create a dimension name that includes a space, an error message will be received. In the report column name, I'll type PL for product line. In the dimension value mask, I want to make sure that my product lines are 3-digit numbers. So I will type 3 pound signs into the dimension value mask field, which will validate and make sure that all of my financial dimension values are 3 digits long. Next, we'll click Financial Dimension Values and create the new values. In this case, I've actually created a duplicate. So I'll create this product line with a US suffix at the end. And then I'll click Financial Dimension Values again. You'll notice that when we open up the Financial Dimension Values form, the list is empty. This is because it's a custom dimension. I must manually add the dimension values by clicking the New button. I'll create 3 dimension values using 100, 200, and 300. The first one will be for private label apparel. The second one, number 200, will be used for Contoso branded apparel. And my third one, number 300, will be used for distributed apparel. Now that I've created the values, I can begin using this particular financial dimension. For our sample chart of accounts, we will need one more financial dimension, so I'll create another one for the unit of measure. This again will be a custom dimension, so I'll call it UOM_US. In the report column name, I'll call it UOM. I don't want to use a dimension value mask for this dimension because I'm going to type various different letters and number combinations for my units of measure. So I'll click the Financial Dimension Values button and then create 2 values. The first one will be called FTE, which is for full-time equivalents. The second value will be used for square footage. So I'll type SF in the dimension value and square footage into the description. Now I've completed setting up all of our financial dimensions. The next thing I can do is set up financial dimension default templates. These are found in the Financial Dimensions folder right underneath the Financial Dimensions form. Financial dimension default templates are optional and are useful when you want to create a template that has common combinations of financial dimensions. You'll notice that if we look at the advertising example, there are 4 allocations in this template. 24% of the entry will go to the Business Unit Home and Sales and Marketing Department. 36% will go to the Home Department and Sales and Marketing. 16% will go to Auto and Sales and Marketing. And 24% will go to Auto and Sales and Marketing. You can create as many lines in your allocations for the financial dimension default templates as you want. If we take a look at another example like rent and utility costs, you can see that there are many more lines. There's no limit to how many lines. The only restriction is that the financial default template allocation must add up to 100. You can see that allocation at the bottom of the screen. Next, let's talk a little bit more about financial dimension sets.